Last season, the Atlanta Hawks pulled off something absolutely nobody else could do during the entire playoffs. They beat the Knicks twice. Inbounds pass. McCollum fires. Hawks lead, 109-108. They ended up losing the series, but Atlanta pushed those eventual champions way further than anyone outside of Georgia ever expected. And for a young squad that had just traded away their franchise cornerstone, going toe-to-toe with the best team in the league completely reshaped their future. Instead of spending the whole summer frantically trying to replace what went out the door, the Hawks leaned into what worked. They doubled down on their strengths, went out and patched up their single biggest flaw, and they assembled one of the deepest pools of young talent and future draft assets in the NBA. For the first time in years, this actually looks like a front office with a plan, not just a franchise scrambling to survive the play-in tournament. These are not your old Atlanta Hawks. On January 8th, 2026, Atlanta made the move the whole city saw coming, but still was not ready for. After more than 7 years of leading the franchise, four-time All-Star Trae Young was shipped to the Washington Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kiss. Walking away from a long-term cornerstone is about as gutsy as it gets for any NBA front office. Doing that without getting a single draft pick in return is practically unheard of in the modern league. But if you look past the initial shock, a clear direction emerges. Atlanta was handing the keys over to Jaylen Johnson and one of the youngest core groups in basketball. And though they missed out on the heavy draft capital fans wanted, they secured something the front office valued just as highly: the long-term financial flexibility to keep this promising young core intact. When that trade finally went down, the Hawks stood at 18-21, sitting 9th in the Eastern Conference. Trae had only suited up for a few games that year, and Atlanta went a miserable 2-8 with him on the floor. It felt like a completely lost season. Then, they flipped the script. After the break, Atlanta became one of the hottest teams in basketball. Atlanta went 20-6 over their final 26 games. That was the 4th best record in the league over that stretch, trailing only the Spurs, Thunder, and Celtics. And this was no fluky hot streak either. Almost every advanced metric under the hood showed this team was for real. Over those final months, Atlanta posted a 118.3 offensive rating, ranking 11th overall. But the defense was the real story here. They ranked 2nd in the league at 108.6, creating a plus 9.7 net rating, which ranked 4th. They played at the 11th fastest pace in the league and dominated points off turnovers, averaging a ridiculous 22.5 per night. On both ends of the floor, the Hawks had suddenly become a major problem. By the end of the regular season, they climbed all the way to the 6th seed at 46-36, their best win total since the 2015-2016 season. Then came the postseason matchup against the eventual champion Knicks. Atlanta actually looked primed to pull off one of the biggest first-round playoff upsets in years. They jumped out to a 2-1 series lead and had New York genuinely sweating. But championship teams adjust. Starting in Game 4, the Knicks made a few key offensive adjustments. The momentum swung, and the Hawks could never quite wrestle it back. The ending was brutal. Atlanta got blown out 140-89 in Game 6, trailing 83-36 at halftime in an incredibly lopsided closeout game. It is easy to remember the series for its ugly ending, but that misses the bigger picture. Sure, the Hawks lost to the champions, but they also did something nobody else managed during New York's entire championship run. They beat the Knicks twice. Not even Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs could say that in the finals. For a squad this young, that is way more than a moral victory. It told Atlanta they had found a blueprint worth building around. Heading into the offseason, everyone around the league assumed Atlanta would be incredibly busy. They held 3 draft picks, plenty of financial flexibility, and all the assets to get aggressive if the right deal came along. But instead of chasing a blockbuster deal right away, the Hawks spent the early summer reinforcing what was already working for them. Quin Snyder signed an extension. CJ McCollum came back on a 1-year deal, and Atlanta added depth by bringing in Aaron Wiggins from Oklahoma City and Devin Carter from Sacramento. For a while, it looked like that might be the whole summer. Then, things suddenly picked up. In one of the biggest moves of the offseason, Shams Charania reported that the Hawks landed Lu Dort in a 3-team trade that sent former number 1 overall pick Zachary Ricochet to the Dallas Mavericks. Atlanta also gave up 2 second-round picks to secure Dort, along with promising young guard Ryan Nembhard. On the surface, it was not a headline grabber. No all-stars switched teams, and no superstar forced his way out. But the longer you look at it, the more their plan comes into focus. This was Atlanta truly doubling down on the exact identity that saved their season. Because last season, the Hawks stumbled onto something that changed the entire game. Under Snyder, Atlanta built a defense-to-offense system focused on forcing turnovers, moving the ball, running the floor, and turning every stop into a fast break. Instead of outshooting teams in the half court, the Hawks won by playing ugly. It worked. Atlanta ranked 5th in pace at 102.5 possessions a game and 3rd in transition points at 18.1 nightly. No team in the NBA punished mistakes better. Their defense turns stops into easy buckets, which makes acquiring Lu Dort so fascinating. Bringing him in was never about changing the Hawks' identity. He was brought in to help them double down on that style. Dort became one of the NBA's premier perimeter defenders during Oklahoma City's title run, making first-team All-Defensive in 2025. Even when his jump shot goes cold for a stretch, his value on the floor never dips. That raw physicality, the constant effort, and his willingness to harass the opposing team's best scorer for 40 minutes make him one of the absolute best role players in the league. All of those traits fit right into what Atlanta is building. Beside Dort, the Hawks have Aaron Wiggins and Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing next to one of the league's top young defenders, Dyson Daniels. Suddenly, Atlanta's perimeter defense went from a strength to the deepest in the league. Daniels has already proven he can anchor a defense at the point of attack. His talent for wrecking plays before they start and leaping into passing lanes was a massive reason their defense transformed last season. The Hawks clearly knew what they had, because 1 year later they added another proven lockdown defender in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. With those two sharing the floor, opposing guards rarely get a clean look or any advantage since both defend incredibly well on and off the ball. Even when the rest of the defensive rotation broke down, that backcourt duo gave the Hawks a reliable safety net. Now, inject Lu Dort into that mix, and a good defensive backcourt has a chance to become the most disruptive perimeter unit in basketball. The real fun, though, is the lineup flexibility. Against high-scoring elite guards, Snyder can throw Daniels and Dort out there together and dare opponents to find a mismatch. Between them, there is almost nobody on the court they cannot switch on to. From a point guard running the show to a bigger wing hunting a mismatch. But first, a quick word before we get back into things. Just to be completely clear up front, this is only for you if you have the financial means and can keep things fully responsible. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports play app. If you have never tried it, it is honestly the easiest setup out there. Pick more or less on a few player stats, lock in your lineup, and you are done. Plus, if you prefer backing a team, they have that option now as well. Simply select the outright winner, the point spread, or the game total on any matchup or fight. For today's picks, I am taking Caitlin Clark more on made three-pointers and A'ja Wilson less on rebounds plus assists. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida, and they just updated their welcome offer for new users. There is no better time to jump in. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. Win that initial lineup and those $150 are yours. Again, only play if you can afford it, and please keep things responsible. Play smart. Use code HMA at signup. Link in description. Back to it. There is also a major benefit to this. Without taking the absolute toughest matchup every single night, Daniels does not have to grind on defense every single possession. Saving him some energy on the defensive end means you might get even greater output in transition and on offense, where his game still needs development. And Lu Dort was not the only championship experienced player Atlanta acquired. They had already acquired Wiggins from Oklahoma City prior to the draft. Both of those players understand exactly what championship habits look like: the extreme attention to detail and daily consistency, the hard sacrifices required to survive a deep postseason run. For a roster full of young players still learning how to win, that level of veteran experience could matter just as much as anything they do on the floor. All offseason long, Atlanta chased one primary goal: elite perimeter defense, building a wall with Daniels, Alexander-Walker, Wiggins, and now Lu Dort. The Hawks have assembled one of the absolute deepest collections of lockdown defensive guards and wings in the NBA. That depth gives them what every title contender wants: versatile options. No matter the matchup, they have several players who can lock down elite scorers without sacrificing size or intensity. Against the best backcourts and wings in the East, very few teams can match what Atlanta can throw at them over 48 minutes. And if the 2026 playoffs proved anything, it is that this is how championship rosters are built. The NBA's best defenses belong to the Spurs, the champion Knicks, and the Thunder. 3 teams, one common thread elite defenders everywhere, and that is the exact club Atlanta is desperate to join. They are not quite there yet, but Dort gets them closer. In a league that values length and switchability more every single year, Atlanta is getting ahead of the curve. Landing just one perimeter stopper is hard enough. Adding 2 in a single summer when you already have 2 more players built the same way is something that almost never happens. None of it was flashy. But flashy and smart are not the same thing, and this front office pretty clearly chose to be smart. And the trade market was not the only place Atlanta went to work either. The 2026 draft might end up mattering just as much. That goes not just for next season, but for where this franchise is headed long term. The Hawks walked into draft night with 3 picks and came away with Kingston Flemings at number 8, Zubie Edger at number 23, and Henry Visa at number 52. The common thread connecting all 3 is upside. Let's start with Flemings. Ever since that trade in January, Atlanta kept clearing every single bar people set for them. But there was still one part of Trae's game they just could not replace: shot creation. It is about more than just creating for himself. It is bending the defense to open up clean looks for everybody else, and they felt that absence most when things slowed down against the Knicks. During the biggest moments of that series, Atlanta did not have anyone who could reliably beat his man, collapse the defense, and create for others. That is a massive reason why their season ended when it did. So, with the 8th pick, they went straight at the problem. What Flemings does best is get to wherever he wants on the floor, whether in transition or from a standstill. His first step absolutely jumps off the screen. He does not even need a ball screen to get downhill. That burst is more than enough to beat guys one-on-one, force quick rotations, and put the defense in a bind right away. Now, Summer League always comes with a grain of salt. Every July, somebody absolutely lights it up, only to disappear once the games actually start to count. But even with that caveat in mind, Flemings flashed some real skills that are hard to ignore. Atlanta's offense simply looked much more organized with him out on the floor. He generated good looks out of the pick and roll, made highly intelligent reads, did not cough up the ball, and used quick hands to disrupt passing lanes on the other end. He was not out there hunting his own shot. He played like a true floor general and made things so much easier for everyone around him. That is the encouraging part of this projection. Flemings probably will not ever pass like Trae Young. Almost nobody does, but he brings something Trae never did: real point of attack defense. He is listed at just 183 pounds and still plays with surprising physicality, fighting through screens and putting himself in spots to force turnovers. Better yet, he does not need to be a volume scorer to make an impact. And at just 19 years old, there is a ton of room to grow. If those early flashes mean anything, the Hawks might have already found themselves a foundational piece. Flemings naturally got most of the attention as the lottery pick. And rightfully so. But if Summer League was any hint, Zubie Edger could end up being just as important to what Atlanta is building. At 6'9" and 240 pounds, Edger has got a rare mix of strength, bounce, and mobility. He routinely gives up height to a lot of traditional centers and still wins the physical battle, using his strength to move guys off their spots. On offense, that same physicality lets him finish through contact, carve out space in the paint, and keep constant pressure on the rim. And that is exactly the kind of big Atlanta's offense wants. Coach Snyder's system runs on pace, movement, and quick decisions. And few things generate an open three faster than a center who sprints the floor and forces the defense to load up. Edger is a true rim runner with much better passing instincts than people expect, which makes him a natural fit. You saw it in the Summer League. His best game came against the Thunder, where he put up 19 points, 15 boards, 3 assists, and a block in an 82-77 win. There will be an adjustment period, like there always is for young bigs, but rebounding effort and athleticism tend to carry over right away, and those are already his biggest calling cards. If the jumper keeps coming along, he gives Atlanta another strong front court piece behind Kongu and more freedom to go small and fast. But Edger was not the only big that they landed that night. Hawks fans have been waiting for years for this front office to find a real center, and they might have gotten one without spending a first-rounder in Henry Visa. At 7 feet, 270 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan, Visa has the kind of size Atlanta has been missing forever. The size is nice, but what makes him truly intriguing is the deep skill set behind it. He finishes efficiently around the rim, actually spaces the floor from three-point range, and passes well enough to affect the game with or without the ball. That is the modern stretch five profile that every team is hunting for, and it makes his fit in Atlanta genuinely interesting. But as much as all these additions might matter, Atlanta's ultimate ceiling comes down to one guy, Jaylen Johnson. The 25-26 season was one long transition for the Hawks. They traded away the face of their franchise, absolutely shattered expectations after the break, and carved out a brand new identity along the way. Yet through it all, one thing stayed constant: Jaylen Johnson became a star. In his very first year serving as Atlanta's primary option, Johnson made his debut All-Star team and capped it off with an All-NBA third-team nod. He became the first Hawk to earn All-NBA honors since Trae Young back in 2022. That is the exact leap you dream of when handing a young player the keys. The stats fully backed it up: 22.5 points, 10.3 boards, 7.9 assists, and 49% shooting. He dragged Atlanta straight back to the playoffs, year one, franchise leader. Teams almost never transition from one era to the next without taking a major step backward. Yet, the Hawks somehow bypassed that slump. But as great as his regular season was, the playoffs exposed how much room Johnson still has to grow. Especially against those champion Knicks, Atlanta's half-court offense kept getting completely bogged down, forcing Johnson to constantly create looks against one of the absolute nastiest defenses in the entire league. Between OG and Anaby, Mule Bridges and Josh Hart suffocating the perimeter, with Karl Anthony Towns alongside Mitchell Robertson protecting the paint, nobody found breathing room. His next development step is pretty clear. Contenders need half-court scorers. Become that. He is already lethal in transition, where his raw athleticism and instincts make him incredibly dangerous. But playoff basketball is an entirely different animal. The pace slows, those fast break runouts dry up, and every single possession becomes a half-court grind. That is precisely where stars separate themselves. If Johnson keeps polishing his mid-range game and starts bullying smaller defenders with his strength, while creating highly efficient offense in isolation and late in the shot clock, Atlanta's ceiling instantly skyrockets. If that happens, Jaylen Johnson is why this new era in Atlanta gets remembered. But perhaps the best part of Atlanta's summer isn't one specific move. It is the flexible position they have built. The young core of Johnson, Daniels, and Flemings should keep them climbing for years. Meanwhile, tough veterans like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, CJ McCollum, and Lu Dort provide plenty of defense and veteran leadership to win right now. You rarely get both at once, and that overall flexibility matters just as much. By signing players to short one-year deals, the Hawks upgraded their rotation without sacrificing their future. They still hold on to those mid-sized salaries and future draft assets to acquire a star if one becomes available. Whether that happens before the upcoming trade deadline or next summer, one thing is certain: this front office is not done building. It will be fun seeing where the Hawks land in the East. They might not be true championship contenders. Not yet. But they have put together one of the most fascinating young rosters in basketball, and this could easily be just the beginning. So, what do you think? How far can this squad go? Will they pull off another massive trade before the deadline? Can they actually win a playoff series? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit those like and subscribe buttons for more daily NBA content. We will catch you in the very next video.